What is the meaning of life? Why is there a world at all? And why do we find ourselves in it? These timeless questions have echoed across cultures and ages. From ancient seers meditating in forests to modern philosophers staring into the abyss, humanity has spun countless stories to explain why we exist and what it all means. Is there a divine purpose behind creation? Or is life a cosmic accident? If a supreme being simply is, with no need or motive, why would it conjure up a universe of separate creatures? And if there is no ultimate purpose, if existence simply happens, then how do we derive meaning or morality in such a world? In this video essay, I will explore various traditions, faiths, indigenous worldviews, and modern philosophy to conjure up an answer. But a disclaimer before we proceed. At the end, I will provide my personal opinion on this, and you might not like the conclusion we arrive at by the end. So, shut this video down right away because you have been warned. In the beginning, say the sages, there was only oneness. The Hindu Upanishads describe a primordial absolute reality, Brahman, that existed alone, one without a second. Then he created all this that exists. In other words, the one became the many. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna proclaims, everything comes from me, everything resides in me. I am one with everyone, everything is me, and upon reaching moksha, everything comes back to me. The Advaita Vedanta school of Hindu philosophy asserts that there is no separation between Brahman, the ultimate consciousness, and Atman, the individual consciousness. So, when there is no duality between God and man, the question of creation does not arise. But we do experience this world, everything around and within us. This cosmic emergence is often portrayed as Maya. Maya is nothing but the matrix. The goal of Atman is to take the red pill, escape this Maya, and become one with Brahman. But then why create this Maya? Why give us this illusion of a make believe world in the first place? If Brahman is complete in itself and there is no separation between him and us, why create a world even if it's a false one? Well, this necessity to build a world is not labor, it is a play. Leela. Leela in Sanskrit refers to spontaneous divine play of consciousness. The universe in this view is Brahman's creative self expression, an unfolding drama where the infinite explores finitude just for the joy of it. And why does a child play? A child plays for the sake of playing. There is no purpose in playing. If you tell a child to play because he will learn something from it, or treat play like an academic course, the child would kick away all his toys. Play is just for the joy of it. Perhaps we are meant to live just for the joy of it. Creation then is an act of divine self multiplication, a cosmic game of hide and seek with one actor taking on countless roles. Mystics from other traditions have echoed this idea. A Sufi teaching, attributed as a Hadith Qudsi or divine saying, has God declare, I was a hidden treasure and I loved to be known. So I created the creation in order that I might be known. Here, the one, by manifesting as the many, knows itself through relationship, lover and beloved, seeker and sought. In Christianity, some theologians have similarly suggested that God created the world out of love to share existence and goodness. Creation is seen as an outpouring of divine love and glory. The book of Genesis subtly affirms goodness in creation. God saw everything, and indeed it was very good, hinting that joy and value motivated the act of creation. In these perspectives, our separateness is an illusion of sorts, an intentional illusion crafted so that a greater story can unfold, one of separation and return, of losing and finding the divine. But why does the Supreme Being have the desire to create this illusion? Desire is a very carnal human emotion. The Supreme Being if it truly resides in eternal bliss, should be beyond desire. A place of eternal fulfillment should have no craving in the first place. The classical principle ex nihilo nihil fit means from nothing, nothing comes. And indeed, when you add 0 to 0, all you get is 0. In our experience, things do not pop into existence without a cause. And thus, not every tradition personifies the cosmos with a creator. Buddhism, for instance, speaks of no creator at all. The world of beings arises from causes and conditions, not from divine will. Existence is an ever turning wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and death, with no discernible beginning. This universe was not made at a moment in time, it has always been in a flux. According to Buddhist cosmology, our sense of being separate individuals is ultimately a product of ignorance. We mistakenly perceive a fixed self and a solid world when, at the deepest level, there is just a stream of interdependent events. The illusion of separateness is a cognitive mirage, not a divine Leela, but a trap of our own mind. As one Buddhist text explains, the fundamental cause of suffering is ignorance. Ignorance and desire combine to blind us. From beginningless time until the present, you have taken a thief for your son. In other words, we have mistaken the false for the real, forgetting the luminous truth. Whether one calls it nirvana, Buddha nature, or simply reality as it is. The world in Buddhism is likened to a dream or a magic show, not because a god tricked us, but because the mind projects a seeming reality that doesn't match the truth. Jainism goes even further, removing any intentional creation altogether. It teaches that the universe was never created, it has existed forever, cycling through its own rhythms. No single supreme being pulls the strings. Instead, the cosmos operates according to the eternal nature principles. Souls, or jeeves, and matter interact continuously in a beginningless dance. The Hindu cosmology, across various texts, speaks similarly of cycles. Brahman, also referred to as Mahavishnu, Shiva, or Krishna, manifests countless universes in each breath out and dissolves them upon breathing in. On that gargantuan scale, our universe is but an atom of the divine. And this has always been and always will be. For the Jains, the very question, why did God create us, does not apply, because no God created the world. The world simply is, without a beginning, governed by karma and inherent qualities of substances. This view partly aligns with Buddhism. Both see the world as beginningless, governed by cause and effect, rather than a creator's whim. In many indigenous worldviews, too, creation isn't pinned to a single moment. There are secret stories of how the world and the humans emerged or were shaped by ancestral forces. But these stories emphasize connection and continuity over a defined start. The universe is alive with spirit. Humans, animals, earth, and sky are bound in a web of relationships. The question of why is less a philosophical puzzle and more of a call to live in harmony with the great cycle of life. The Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam take a slightly different approach. These say there was an absolute beginning. The Genesis says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Let there be light." The implication is that nothingness could not birth something on its own. A pre existent divine being acted to produce all things. The Quran echoes this: "Be and it is." God's command is sufficient to bring things into existence. Islam also offers a purpose. I did not create the jinn and mankind except to worship me. This suggests that conscious beings were created to know and worship God. But crucially, God was always there. Yet God's will, his desire to create, brings us back to a deeper question. And so we arrive at two possibilities: infinity and nothingness. Both are unfathomable to the human mind. Our brains can't truly comprehend zero or infinity. We can use words, but we cannot wrap our limited perception around either zero or infinity. Thus, across cultures, we find two broad motifs regarding our origin. A supreme consciousness became us on purpose or for play, or we simply arose as a part of an eternal natural order. In the first, our separateness is a divine illusion, a purposeful story set in motion. In the second, our separateness is either an accident of ignorance or simply a condition of nature. Either way, here we are, feeling cut off from the source and wondering how and why we got here. Every story has a beginning, or does it? When we ponder existence, we eventually slam into the greatest mystery of all. Why is there something rather than nothing? If we rewind the cosmic movie to the very start, what do we find? Now, let's set aside traditional views. Let's say existence came into being 14 billion years ago from a singular Big Bang. What was there before the bang? Perhaps there was another universe, one that collapsed into itself and gave rise to the universe we now inhabit. But then, what was there before that universe? Is this an endless cycle? Does this loop ever end? And if there was no universe before ours, was there nothing? If there was truly nothing, how did something like the Big Bang arise from it? If nothing can give rise to something, then is it really nothing? This same paradox applies to the idea of God or supreme consciousness. Either he must be infinite or the cycle of creation must be. If we accept the Buddhist and the Jain traditions of Shunyata or even the scientific Big Bang model, it means nothing created everything. But again, if nothing can create everything, then that nothing isn't really nothing. It is something. So, whether it is the mystical void, the quantum vacuum, or an uncreated divine reality, we circle back to the same awe striking realization: we are here somehow, and the source of our being, whether conscious or impersonal, eternal or emerging, is shrouded in paradox. If ultimate reality is one and its nature is pure being, why then are we born as separate, struggling creatures? Why this elaborate game where the divine must rediscover itself through us? One answer, found in dharmic traditions, is again beautifully paradoxical. We are the divine, playing at not being divine, so that the experience of reunion can occur. Imagine watching your favorite TV series and rewatching it again and again. There comes a point where you feel that you could somehow forget that you watched this series and you could rewatch it again for the first time just to experience that first time feeling. It's the same game that the divine is playing. In Advaita Vedanta, the teaching is that the Atman or the soul or the self within is actually identical with the Brahman, the Absolute. Tat Tvam Asi. You are that, declares the Chandogya Upanishad. Each of us, in truth, is the infinite one. But under the spell of Maya, we have forgotten our true identity. This also means that we are not just one with the divine, but every person on this earth is the same. The world is a grand hypnosis, making us think we are limited, tiny, separate. The purpose of life is then not to become something new, but to wake up to what we already are. As one seer put it, Brahman alone is real, the world is illusion, the individual self is none other than Brahman. The game of life is a process of wheeling and unveiling. The one wheels itself in multiplicity, and each person's spiritual journey is an unveiling of the divine within. But then again, why would Brahman do this? Why play hide and seek with itself? Advait often answers with the concept of Leela again, the joy of play. Just as an actor may enjoy immersing in a role or a dancer delights in the dance, the absolute might delight in manifesting as the relative. Consciousness exploring itself in countless forms brings a kind of richness that pure unity alone could not experience. After all, in pure unity, who is there to experience whom? In this sense, the rediscovery, the moment a finite being realizes I am that, is the climax of the cosmic play. It is said to be an experience of indescribable bliss and liberation. The God self within us awakens, and in that awakening, the purpose of the game is fulfilled. A beautiful analogy in Vedantic thought is the dream. The universe is like a dream that the Brahman is having. Inside the dream, the characters, you and me, struggle to understand what's going on until one character lucidly awakens to realize the other dreamer. Enlightenment is that lucid moment, the part recognizing the whole. Buddhism frames this drama slightly differently, but with a similar trajectory of ignorance and awakening. Since Buddhism does not posit an overarching God self, it speaks of Buddha nature or emptiness or shunyata as the fundamental reality. All beings already possess Buddha nature, the inherent potential to be enlightened. Yet they wander in samsara because they do not recognize this nature. They are like beggars sitting on a chest of treasure without knowing it. Zen Buddhism loves to tell paradoxical tales of seekers searching for what they never actually lost, like you looking for your phone when it is already in your hand. The nature of mind is ever present and luminous, but we are busy looking elsewhere. As a Buddhist text says, your perfect, wondrous mind, you mistake the false for the real because of ignorance and delusion. The path, then, is about removing veils, not attaining something new. As Kashmiri Shaivism points out, every being, every atom in the universe is Shiv. The chant Har Har Mahadev, as suggested by Amish Tripathi in his book Immortals of Melua, might actually translate to every being is Mahadev or Shiv. We just need to realize it in our lifetime. One Zen master said, enlightenment is like the moon reflected in water. The moon does not get wet, nor is the water broken. Yet, as long as the water is agitated, the image is distorted. Calm the mind, clear the ignorance, and reflection of truth appears. From the Sufi perspective, the soul's journey is often described as returning to the beloved. Similarly, we see the golden shimmer on a wave or reflections of sunlight on the sea. One of those shimmers suddenly wakes up and proclaims, I am alive. I am the sun. But it isn't really the sun. It is just a reflection of the sunlight on the sea. Is that who we are? If God created us to be known as the hidden treasure saying goes, then our purpose is to know God, to complete the circuit of love. The separation is for the sake of a sweeter reunion. Mystics often use the metaphor of a lover's pursuit. God is the lover and the beloved, creating creatures so that this love can play out in a dynamic form. The Sufi poet Rumi compares us to waves in the ocean of God. Each wave rises up seemingly apart, only to subside back into the sea, an individual manifestation returning to the unity from which it was never truly apart. In Christian mysticism, we find the theme of the prodigal son. The soul leaves the father's house, wanders in a faraway country, and finally returns home. And there is great joy in heaven at that homecoming. It's as if God as a being desires a story of departure and return, making Joseph Campbell proud. Without the departure, there can be no joyous return. Without darkness, no dawn. Of course, these are poetic and metaphorical interpretations. And thus, not every philosopher is satisfied with God wanted to play or the one wanted to experience itself as explanations. Some, like Adi Shankara of Advait, would say that ultimately no finite mind can fathom the why of creation. From the vantage of the Absolute, the question itself loses meaning because nothing ever really happened. From the highest standpoint, no soul was ever separate, no world was ever actually created, only Brahman is. But As long as we experience separation, we live within the story. And in that story, searching for our source seems to be part of the design. As the Bhagavad Puran suggests, once the one had become many, the next impulse was for the many to become one again. We, the individual players, feel a pull towards unity, wholeness, transcendence. We are driven by a mysterious homesickness for the infinite. In summary, beingness naturally expresses itself as becoming, and that very becoming contains the seed of return to pure being. It's a cyclic dance. The illusion of separateness isn't a mere error, it's a part of a greater pattern, a journey of the universe coming to know itself. Whether one speaks in terms of God and soul or in terms of Buddha nature and the sentient beings, the narrative is one of self discovery. We are meant by whom or what is debated, but we are meant to wake up. And the moment we do, it is as if God, the universe, and we all at once remember our shared beingness. All this talk of divine play and cosmic purpose may be comforting to some, but what if someone concludes there is no purpose at all? Many modern thinkers and some ancient ones have faced the possibility that the universe has no inherent meaning. If that is true, if life, the Big Bang, evolution, and the cosmos are not purposeful creations but aimless accidents, then what does anything mean? How are we to live and why? This concern is not new. Over 2000 years ago, the author of Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew Bible looked at the world and sighed, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. Generations come and go, the sun rises and sets, all is vanity, he lamented. In modern times, this sentiment found a voice in existentialism and nihilism. Existential nihilism is the view that, objectively speaking, life has no purpose or value. The famous German philosopher Nietzsche declared, God is dead, recognizing that for many, traditional sources of meaning like religion had lost their power, leaving a void. Existentialists like Jean Paul Sartre and Albert Camus grappled with this void. Sartre said that without a divine blueprint, humans are condemned to be free. We must invent meaning in an indifferent universe. Existence precedes essence, he asserted. First we exist, and only later define our essence, our purpose, our values. Camus famously likened life to the myth of Sisyphus, a man condemned to roll a boulder up a hill for eternity. In a purposeless world, we are all Sisyphus. And yet Camus did not counsel despair. He suggested instead that we must imagine Sisyphus happy, finding meaning in the very act of living and striving, even if there is no final goal. In a similar vein, if life truly has no purpose, you get to choose your own purpose. The apparent darkness of nihilism can be inverted into a kind of freedom with no preset meaning. We are free to give life whatever meaning we want. From a Buddhist perspective, one might say they reached a similar conclusion but with a different emotional tone. The Buddha saw that everything in life is impermanent. Clinging to any worldly meaning of wealth, status, and even family will eventually lead to sorrow because time takes all away. In a sense, the Buddha emptied life of any inherent or permanent significance. However, Buddhism does offer a guiding purpose in practice to alleviate suffering. The Noble Truths teach that life in samsara is entangled with suffering or dukkha, and the purpose or noble task is to understand suffering and eliminate its causes, ignorance, and craving. So, while Buddhism doesn't claim the universe was designed with a human purpose, it still offers a profound form of meaning, the path of liberation and compassion. A life spent cultivating wisdom and kindness is meaningful, even if there is no creator God assigning us a mission. Morality, too, need not crumble in a purposeless cosmos. Even if there is no ultimate lawgiver or end goal, humans have found reason to be moral. Secular humanists argue that empathy and the desire for well being are sufficient foundations for ethics. We can choose to be good because we feel connected to others and want to eliminate pain, or simply because we prefer love over hate. Many indigenous cultures ground morality in relationship. Life is meaningful when lived in balance and respect. Traditional worldviews see people as part of a greater whole, a oneness rich in diversity and meaning where humans, animals, plants, and even rocks and rivers are all relatives. In such a view, morality is not imposed by a distant God, it is inherent in all of life. To hurt another being is to hurt oneself and to upset the harmony of the whole. Meaning arises from honoring all our relations. A person's purpose might be as simple and profound as being a good relative to the family, the community, the land, and the unseen spirits. Life's meaning is in the living, in the everyday acts of respect rather than in abstract philosophizing. Jainism provides a fascinating example of robust morality without a creator deity. Jains believe in an eternal universe with no beginning and no judge. Yet they hold ethics as paramount. The highest Jain principle is ahimsa or non-violence. Jain sages teach that all life is sacred, from the largest animal down to the tiniest insect, and that one must not harm others. This ethical path is justified not by fear of divine punishment, but by the intrinsic value of living beings and the karmic laws, harm and harmony. Even without a cosmic purpose bestowed by a creator, Jains find purpose in purifying the soul and ultimately achieving moksha or liberation from the cycle of rebirth. Their example shows that meaning and morality can thrive in a context where the universe just is. But what about suffering? You may ask, but there is no joy, there is suffering, depression, and whatnot around us. This might even suggest a darker theory. The Supreme Being is all in one. He is all alone. And perhaps he is disturbed by this loneliness, not knowing where he came from, what is his origin. Being immortal, he cannot destroy himself. So he must cope with his forced loneliness by creating the illusion of others. Hence the divine play. It's quite tragic, really. A paradox when an unstoppable force of consciousness meets an immovable object of immortality. He is trapped by his own sentience and longing for companionship with a true other. But this is impossible, so he must continue coping with illusions and destructions, which is beyond brutal. Or what if the father like being we worship as God is very much like our own fathers? We saw him as a superhero when we were children. He gave us everything we demanded. But as we grew, we realized our father is just like us, flawed and limited. What if we as a species are just in our teens, in a complicated relationship with our Creator? Part of us loves Him, worships Him, another part questions Him. The world He gave us is not the best. What if our purpose as a species is to forgive our Creator, to atone with our Father, and as we evolve, we may find that we must eventually take care of Him? Because when the rivers flooded and we had no answers to Mother Nature's fury, it was the fatherly God who gave us hope, protected us, and helped us evolve as a species. Now that we mature technologically, intellectually, perhaps all we need to do is care for our parents. The Mother Nature that we call as Gaia, Shakti, Prakriti, and the Father God that we call as Yahweh, Shiva, Purusha, Zeus, or whatever. Perhaps we are one troubled family, children bickering among ourselves for ancestral lands. What we need is not a new answer. What we need is family therapy and a little compassion for each other. We see then a kind of convergence. Whether or not one believes in an ordained purpose, humans create purposes to live by. We tell stories to make sense of existence. These stories carry our values and give structure to our choices. For some, the story is I am a child of God, created to love and serve. For others, I am a random being in a vast cosmos, but I choose to give my life meaning through love, creativity, and understanding. Even the starkest nihilist who declares life meaningless will often still find something to value. Perhaps the simple experience of beauty, or loyalty to friends, or the quest for knowledge. We seem wired to seek meaning, even when faced with meaninglessness. So, if there truly were no ultimate purpose, what does anything mean? It means whatever we decide it means. We become, in a sense, the co creators of meaning. Morality then becomes a choice. We choose compassion over cruelty, cooperation over chaos, because that is the kind of world we wish to inhabit. It's a kind of faith in humanity, if not faith in God. And many secular philosophies hold that this is enough. Humanist manifestos often proclaim that our task is to create a good life here and now through reason and empathy. Since no deity will save us, we must save ourselves. The existentialists saw this as the ultimate freedom, a terrifying, exhilarating freedom to author our own essence. In any case, whether one believes in an eternal universe, an eternal God, or an unscrutable spontaneous arising, we confront the limits of our understanding. Why is there something rather than nothing? Perhaps only nothingness itself knows, and it isn't telling. Or, as mystics might say, in absolute stillness beyond all concepts, the truth of origin may be seen by the innermost consciousness. The Rig Veda, which is one of the world's oldest known texts, contains a creation hymn that beautifully captures this sense of cosmic bewilderment. It describes an unfathomable state before creation. Then was neither the existent nor the non existent. Darkness was hidden in darkness. And it ends with these striking lines: who verily knows and who can declare it, when it was born and when comes this creation? The Devtas are later than this world's production. Who knows then when it first came into being? He, the first origin of this creation, whether he formed it all or did not form it, whose eye controls this world in the highest heaven, he verily knows it, or perhaps he knows not. Here is humility at the dawn of human spirituality. Maybe even the highest being does not know how everything started. In this Vedic vision, the origin of origins is cloaked in mystery. The Creator, if there is one, came after the primal emergence, and even he might not fully comprehend it. Interestingly, among certain Native American traditions, the world is said to have formed out of chaos, perhaps by a trickster or a primordial animal. But these tales don't claim to explain the absolute beginning, only a beginning in a continuum. Time is often seen as cyclical, and the focus is on how the world we know took shape, not how existence itself came from nothing. In Maori cosmology, the world began when primal parents, sky and earth, were separated, bringing light into darkness. But where did sky and earth come from? From an earlier void called Te Kore, or the nothingness. This idea of void as womb, nothingness as creative potential appears in many traditions. The Tao Te Ching says, Tao gave birth to one gave birth to two. Non being is the origin of heaven and earth. Being is the mother of the 10,000 things. The Tao is an ineffable source, not a being, not a god, but a principle. From its emptiness, fullness flows like sprouts from fertile soil. In Advaita Vedanta, When a sage attains samadhi, that is, absorption into the absolute, he may declare, I have seen Brahman. It alone is real. All this universe is a shining illusion. In that state, the question of origin dissolves, because the sage's awareness rests in the unborn, undying reality that underlies all beginnings and endings. From the standpoint of the eternal, nothing ever arose. It simply is. Our journey through these ideas has been like walking through a hall of mirrors. In each mirror, we saw a different reflection of the ultimate questions of life. Each tradition, each philosophy offers its own angle, and yet, interestingly, they often converge on certain themes. The Dharmic religions emphasize direct experience of enlightenment, realization, over intellectual answers. The Abrahamic faiths emphasize worship and relationship with God and creation over full comprehension. Indigenous wisdom emphasizes living in harmony rather than questioning cosmos in abstraction. Secular existentialists emphasize authenticity over any external justification. In all cases, meaning is discovered or created through living. As the saying goes, the road is made by walking. Another theme is connection. Even when we feel most separate and purposeless, we have the capacity to connect with each other, with nature, with the present moment, perhaps with the divine. These connections often become our meaning. The Buddha found meaning in alleviating suffering. A humanist finds it in bettering humanity. A devotee finds it in loving God. A sage finds it in realizing oneness. All these are forms of connection, reaching beyond the isolated self. If we are all one, as Advait says, then to love others is to love oneself, and to harm others is to harm oneself. If we are all God's children, we ought to treat each other with compassion. If we are all relatives in the web of life, we must care for our non human kin and our earth. Thus, even without a single agreed upon purpose of life, love and care emerge as near universal guides. They give life meaning almost by definition. As for the purpose or purposelessness of God, perhaps God, the universe, the Tao, or whatever name we give this ultimate reality, doesn't need a purpose. Perhaps existence simply is, as unconditioned and free as a poem or a song that arises for its own sake. The dharmic idea of Leela suggests exactly that. The world is a play, and in a play, the point is not to reach the end, the point is to experience the drama. Likewise, the point of a dance is not to finish the dance but to dance. Maybe life is the dance of the cosmos, and we are tiny dancers within it. Our mistake might be thinking we have to find a rational purpose when really we are meant to join the dance. Just imagine someone pulling you in a party to dance with them, and you're sitting over there wondering, why the hell should I dance? If God or the universe has no external purpose, that does not negate our inner purpose. We are meaning creators. We yearn to understand, to grow, to create, and so we do. Perhaps the meaning of life is the meaning we give it, but the statement itself reflects a deep truth about our nature, possibly a truth put there by the very source of life. Could it be that our impulse to seek meaning is a part of the cosmic play? That in asking these questions and searching our scriptures, philosophies, and hearts, we are doing exactly what the universe or the God intended from us. Or if nothing was intended, perhaps we are doing what truly matters to us as conscious beings. Whether one stands in a temple contemplating God's Leela, or under a night sky feeling awe, or in a philosophy seminar arguing that life is absurd, there is a shared confrontation with the mystery. We may conclude different things, but none of us can escape the sheer improbability and profundity of being here. As the poet Rumi wrote, stop acting so small. You are the universe. in ecstatic motion. We are not separate from the meaning of universe. We embody it. In our very striving, questioning, loving and creating, the universe or God is coming to know itself. So, why did the one become many? Perhaps so that there could be a story, love and discovery. Why must we journey to rediscover beingness? Because a truth found is sweeter than a truth given. What if there is no purpose? Then our purpose is to give purpose. And how could something come from nothing? Maybe it never did. Maybe an eternal everything has always quietly held the nothing in its heart. And to be honest, we will never know. In the end, each answer is like a chapter in an infinite book, a book we are still writing. We each add our own verse to the grand narrative of existence, and that in itself is a beautiful purpose to fulfill.